Hi, so today's podcast is talking about key legislative deadlines. The California Legislature, as opposed to, for example, the US Congress, works on the basis of deadlines by moving legislative measures, bills, resolutions, constitutional amendments through the legislative process based upon these deadlines. The chief clerk of the Assembly and the Secretary of the Senate each maintain this information concerning the legislative deadlines, which are all published shortly after the convening of the session or of the second year of the session. So there's a legislative calendar as well as the joint rules of the Assembly and Senate. Some of the key dates are that bills take effect on January 1. That's from Article 4, Section 8C. Joint Rule 51 states when the legislature reconvenes. Article 4, Section 12A specifies that the budget must be submitted by the governor by January the 10th. The two legislative houses, in consultation with the Office of Legislative Counsel, defines or determines a last day to submit bill requests for drafting by Leg Counsel. Joint Rules 54 and 61 deal with the last day for introducing bills. Joint Rule 51 specifies both when the spring recess begins and when it concludes, and therefore the legislature reconvenes. Joint Rule 61 then is the main deadline rule, including the last day for policy committees to hear and report fiscal bills, the last day for policy committees to hear and report non-fiscal bills, the last day for the policy committees to meet, the last day for the fiscal committees to hear and report bills. Those are all Joint Rule 61. The last day to pass bills out of their house of origin, also found in Joint Rule 61. The budget bill must be passed by midnight on June 15th. That's in Article 4, Section 12C3. And then we return to Joint Rule 61 for the last day for policy committees to hear and report fiscal bills in the second house, the last day for the policy committees to meet and report all bills in the second house. Joint Rule 51 determines when the summer recess begins and ends. It is, of course, contingent upon the budget bill being passed. And then the last day for fiscal committees to report fiscal bills to the floor returns us to Joint Rule 61, that no committee may meet for any purpose with a few exceptions in the last 2 weeks of session. It's also Joint Rule 61 that specifies the last day to amend bills on the floor and the last day for bills to be passed. And then the interim recess in the first year is set forth under Joint Rule 51. Of course, Article 4, Section 10B deals with how long the governor has to sign or veto legislation. So the most critical deadlines for legislation are specified in the Constitution and in the joint rules of the Assembly and Senate. It's always important for you to consult the legislative calendar as well as the joint rules to double check on any of those important deadlines. This information is readily available through the Office of the Chief Clerk of the Assembly, as well as the Office of the Secretary of the Senate, and those in and around the process should get a hold of those legislative calendars that are also available on the respective houses' websites.